Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the lads for a match preview because, boys, Premier League football is back.
Way, come on! None of this international rubbish.
I know, man. It always seems like an absolute lifetime, unless there's like a World Cup or Euros or something. These international breaks just seem like they last forever, don't they?
Me too.
It's horrible. It's horrible. But yeah, we're back. We're back. Chelsea on the weekend. Get your comments in, guys. What you think the score's going to be, what you think the team's going to be. We've got injuries, we've got players back to discuss, all sorts to discuss coming up. So get your comments in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Boys, I think we're like 7 away from 1,150. So we're almost there. And then I'm sure we can get to 1,200 and beyond. Obviously, we're on the road to 2K. And I also checked as well, boys, that we are on I think this might be our 98th video on YouTube. Ooh, so we're close to 100. Yeah, 100 YouTube episodes. So
no way.
And Buddy liked that as well, didn't he? When he heard we were nearly 100.
Yeah. Get ready for it.
So yeah, we might do something special at 100 on our 100th episode. So that'd be amazing. So yeah, comments coming in already. Let's have a look. Michael's in the house. Good evening. Good evening, Michael. Duncan's here. Evening all. Yeah, evening to you, Dunk. Rachel's here. Hi all. And then yeah, everyone's saying hello to each other in there. So yeah, great. Like I say, guys, get your comments in. Smash the like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. We might even have George joining us as well. So let's
fingers crossed.
We might have four of us in. So
four of a kind.
Exactly. I guess where do you want to start, boys? I mean, do we want to go with the big reveal of a certain player who's returning to the squad on Saturday? We were quite pleased about that.
Yeah,
Bonjour. He's here.
Is it Matthew Berson?
I think it might be Berson. Yeah, he's coming back. Yeah. No, of course it's Mr. Boubacar Kamara, and we talked Kev last pod. I think it was after the Bournemouth game. It seems so long ago that midfield four was playing pretty well, but and Kamara wasn't in it. But to have the option of him back and to have him back fit is just great, isn't it?
It's wonderful, but it's crazy to think that we might be arguing whether he gets back in the team or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
what a player.
It gives us so many more options, and we know, like, obviously he was playing well before he was injured, Martin, but yeah, it's good to see that players can still, or the team can still perform without one of our, or arguably, or certainly not arguably one of our best players this season. He's definitely one of our best players this season, but arguably the best player this season hasn't been in.
Yeah, exactly. That just goes to show the style of what Unai Emery is playing, which is working beautifully, regardless whether Kamara's in the team or not. The lads kept the flow going, and they absolutely keeping the wins coming, keeping everybody happy. I didn't feel like Kamara was gone. Now, admittedly, we'll also say it. He's our best player this season. He's easily going to be voted Aston Villa's Player of the Year, and we know when he comes back we'll be even better. But it's credit to the lads. McGinn, Ramsey, Louise, the midfield tree. Probably a lot of people were slating, we're back to square one with these games, but they've still performed without him, and it's absolutely brilliant to see.
Yeah. 100%. James Bond, the man with the golden gun, is in the house again. Now then, lads, up the Villa. Absolutely. Rich Edwards, Higher Villa Park podcast family. Yes, you are. You're all a massive part of it as well. So great to have you on. And he also says McGinn and Ramsey have been shining on international duty. Kev, especially great to see. Yeah. Just great to see. Obviously we've talked about international football there, but I knew it's not great for us, but in terms of McGinn at Scotland, they beat Spain, and obviously he scored in their previous game against Cyprus, I believe it was. McGinn doing well again at international level, and Ramsey captaining England under 21s, although it wasn't a victory, but great for them.
Yeah, it's great. I think that's why it's such a shame that the guys that deserve the England call up, certainly Mings. I think if you look at Watkins, I think I've sort of thought about the Watkins one in terms of, you've got Tony, obviously, and other people, Abraham, etc. around. But I think the form he was in, particularly with him having a few injuries in the squad, it wouldn't have been a bad thing to bring him in. However, that being said, you always keep an eye out for the other players on duty, whether that's, Bailey with Jamaica, maybe not so much Bailey with me, but Bailey with Jamaica or, whoever is playing. And McGinn, McTominay, by the way, was absolutely tremendous. Can we just say that? But, and there's been a few people questioning whether you take him to Villa. But McGinn, he looks like he's just back to his old self. And Ramsey came on, didn't he, against the French and absolutely sort of took the game.
He tore it up. Yeah, it was unreal.
Yeah. It's funny because the interest that I've got with the international football, I'm all about Ramsey playing for under 21s. I'm all about when Grealish was at England. But do you know what? I think I was more about Grealish than I was about England. And it's funny because I watched a Bobby Moore documentary the other night that just happened to be on, and I got really nostalgic, not back to 66, but as in football. And it made me think, I don't know what it is about this modern era of international football, but I'm just not bothered. But then watching that old documentary about 66 and then the 70 World Cup, I was like, wow, England, I'm in. So I don't know what it is. It's weird. Does anyone else feel like that?
Like I say, mate,
I'm Irish. I'd never know.
I do like the international football when it comes to the tournaments and everything like that, and you get caught up with it. I think where it becomes a little bit, because the Premier League and the Champions League and stuff is so intense and it's so much hype over it. Like every game, there's a game every day almost, and there's so much put onto every single game. It's champagne or razor blades, isn't it? Like Villa win and then we're going to get for Europe, and we lose, and it's almost like sack the manager. Obviously not at the moment, but and then you get into international football, and I guess Southgate has done a good job in bringing that team together, but it's not that inspiration, is it? It's not that kind of, I don't know, he's done a good job with the side, but you're getting that feeling now that some of the players aren't, some of the players have been picked and then not played. There's some players that are clearly out of form that are still being played. So when supporters can see that kind of initial shine of when a New England manager comes in and says they're going to pick players on form and they're going to do this, going to do that. When they go back on those promises, which inevitably they do, people automatically lose faith. And then when you've got people like Rashford who says he doesn't want to, he's got a slight injury, which I'm sure he'll be playing on Saturday, and he goes over to New York, it doesn't help the case for keeping people interested in international football.
No.
And that's the way I see it. I think when it comes to tournaments, everyone gets into it, but when it comes to these qualifiers and things like that, it's just, I think Lee's put it there. It's a bit sterile, and that's kind of the issue for me. You've got an opportunity as well when you've had a couple of dropouts from the squad to bring people in. It's almost like I know it's not the same as obviously club football, but the injection of a new transfer, of a new face in the transfer window can get a bit out of the squad. Why not bring in someone that's either been in the squad in the past and give them an opportunity to impress and see if they can kick on and an extra level of performance out of it? It keeps the likes of the other players in the squad on the toes. It's almost like I've got the ones that I like, my favourites. I think his quote was, we think we've got enough for these games. And I don't know whether it was England playing particularly well or it was the teams who played just not particularly playing that well, a combination of that. And that video of how Redknapp's been going, man, hasn't it, saying we beat everyone, beat 10 out of 10 in the qualifiers, and then we mess up in the tournament. Absolutely, yeah. George, what's your thoughts on the international football? And I definitely take Kev's point there about, I think Southgate kind of shot himself in the foot a bit by saying that the players he's almost not got a great deal of quality. And then you think, well, why don't you bring players in to give them a chance?
Hi, lads. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult with the international scene, I find. It's like the other day I was watching the Ukraine game, and I was sort of thinking to myself, we're 2-0 up. No one gives a shit in the world, really. It's just our boring qualifier. Let's get back to the Premier League. But if we were losing that game 2-0, the whole of the country want him out. So, you know what I mean? He's kind of on a hiding to nothing, really.
The whole of Ireland want him in.
I get you. Yeah. I get
that. The qualifiers, you've just got to get on with them, haven't you? Like you just said there, the chances are we probably will win 10 out of 10. I think getting the Italy game out of the way, that was a fantastic result, really. That's the European champions. That's the team that that beat us in the final not so long ago. That game, first half we were terrific. Second half not so good. We went back to what you often say, Kev, the cautious Southgate, and we were properly like under the cosh in that second half.
Yeah.
But to be fair, we held on and won the game. And then the Ukraine game on Sunday was pretty comfortable throughout. And really that's job done now. So maybe going forward we can start, introducing a few new faces, like you say, and try and freshen it up and get people excited again.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, anyway, I think we got into this conversation because we talked about players playing so well for their international clubs, and like I say, Mings and Watkins didn't really get that opportunity. But yeah, Ian says he likes Emery's comments on McGinn more than the usual. They are excellent. He makes it about various players, which you never know what he really means by it. I think McGinn is here to stay. Michael says, watching a few old games over the years today, and the football was really kick and run compared to what we have now. We can't go back to kicking long to create a 50-50 with it coming straight back. Yeah, it's some great football that we're playing. Rich says, yeah, Emery loves McGinn, versatile, can play different positions. And also John Duran scored his first goal for Colombia, which was a great finish. We'll get onto your question in a bit regarding Kamara when we do the teams. Adamski's in the house says, be nice to pump Chelsea 8-0. Absolutely, mate. I'll take a 1-0, mate. I'll take a 1-0.
Yeah, take anything.
The man with the golden gun says, the publicity and the money put into a club football has put a bit of a dampener on international football, but on the flip side, international has had a place in a nation's identity. Yeah, I think, and Southgate really did a great job of that, in the early days. I just think kind of get back to that would be great. Talking on international, obviously I covered this in the short Bodymore bulletin, but Matty Cash is out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, as Emery confirmed today. Leaves us a little bit of he was just playing well, which is a bit of a shame for him. We obviously chatted about this on Monday or Tuesday, Martin, on the Talking Tactics live special. But Kev, your thoughts on Cash coming out and what Emery might do moving forward, without giving too much away with your team?
Okay, without giving too much away, I'll play the assistant manager there. Honest, Kev was lying. No, I think it's almost like the same situation with Kamara, where you would have thought at the start of the season with a 37-year-old Aston Young, and it happens to Cash, who had been a bit inconsistent. My God, you've got an old timer there playing. But I think Young's been one of our better players this season when he's played. 20-odd games he's played, hasn't he, this season, I'm pretty sure. And
yeah,
I think he's been one of our standout 3 or 4 players this season. I mean, I think he faded a little bit in the last few weeks, which was timed quite well with Cash coming in. But with him having a few weeks out of the team, would I be phased at all for him to come back in? No. There's been some talk of, options of bringing Carlos back in and shifting Conte to right back. But for me, I just think it's... I think it's an obvious choice to put Young back in there, but it's also a sign now of the squad depth, because I appreciate the bench has been light at times and obviously having 2 goalers on it. But when you think you've got, admittedly they haven't all played brilliantly, but you've got Dendoncker to come back in potentially as well. You've got some of the youngsters kicking around that obviously may or may not. Who knows what happens with Kessler Hayden if something happens to Young. So I think these are a lot of players that were wildly inconsistent under previous regimes, that we're now starting to get a tune out of, and therefore you're not so bothered when that first 11 isn't fit. It used to be terrifying, didn't it? When you've got, my God, who's going to come in? Now it feels like people are coming in and doing okay.
Yeah. George, I think Kev makes a great point now about the bench. We will hopefully go from the fact of having to play 2 goalkeepers on the bench to having I put Dendonker's picture up there. So you've got Dendoncker in, you've got Carlos who's coming back to fitness, you've got Kamara, whether he starts or not, but obviously that means someone else has to come out. All of a sudden, Duran scores as well, so he'll be full of confidence. Traore's back. All of a sudden, George, he's got a fair few options on the bench now.
Yeah, definitely. That can only be good for us, can't it? Once you do get a few injuries, and the second you see a few youth team players and, like you say, 2 keepers, you're like, shit, we're down to the bare bones here. But we've spent a lot of money the last couple of years, so really we should have a decent strength of squad. And it's no surprise to me to see that level on the bench.
Yeah, I want to see where some even bigger names aren't getting into the squad. It's always been kind of scratching around, and giving a couple of lads a shot on the bench and stuff, where you do want to obviously keep the pathway open for the young players, but at the same time, with 5 subs, you want to have some real competition for places in the Villa squad, and hopefully now, with obviously additions coming in the summer, we'll start to see that more and more. So yeah, it's one to watch. Few comments coming in. Let's have a look what we've got. Ian says the Bournemouth game was the first game where I thought Ramsey was starting to take on Emery's coaching. Before that, I was starting to worry he wasn't progressing. I hope this continues moving forward.
That game.
Yeah. I mean, what were your thoughts on Ramsey? And obviously, Kev, you mentioned that he came on against France and sort of turned the game and scored a goal. Are we going to see the best of Ramsey now moving forward?
So is that to me or George?
You, Kev?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I would absolutely love to have a Grealish Mark II, a local lad that we could get behind properly, who's the fulcrum, the linchpin of the team. And it's totally to be expected of someone of his age that he will sometimes be inconsistent. Even some of the better teams that have got players at that age, they can come in and out sometime. Martinelli's been a bit up and down with his form. You can get all sorts of players like that. But when he's on it, Ramsey, we haven't got a player like him in the team. He's totally unique to what we've got. His ability. What I loved about that Bournemouth goal was he saw a little bit of space and he just drove into it with a real acceleration. And I can't see anyone else in our team doing that. So, and then for England, it was great to see him perform for England and do what he was doing, and obviously then get the captains afterwards. If he can kick on now, we've got a hell of a player there. And listen, he's got a couple of other siblings as well, so who knows?
Yeah, George, are you? I've seen you nodding your head there. Are you kind of praying that Ramsey, fulfills that potential and becomes a key player for us?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, we all love to see one of our own, do the business at Villa, don't we? And we've seen, what he did, last season, wasn't it? Burst onto the scene. He's scoring goals, the running off the midfielders. He's got a bit of physicality. He's got a bit of everything in his game. He's sort of like quite good at everything and not amazing at anything yet. But, like you just said, he's 21. So I think the ceiling's very high for Ramsey. And I hope it continues in a Villa shirt and he's not going to be enough of Grealish in a couple of years with half the country wanting to buy him.
Yeah. That's what we've got to watch out for. Rich Edwards says, he saw me on the European Charge podcast with the Arsenal and West Ham fans giving it loads, saying you shouldn't have been invited on. Hope we go on an amazing run and make Europe. Yeah, well, let's hope so. They'll be eating their words. I think it was the Tottenham fan, but yeah, I mean, they're in turmoil at the moment. I still can't believe that they're 4th with like how like kind of.
It's like they lose every other week, isn't it? But
I don't understand it.
It's like us winning every week and we're stuck in 11th.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
They're doing an investigation into all these clubs and their finances. Yeah. And they did an investigation into the Premier League point system. I mean, have we been keeping a close eye on it? Have some teams been getting 0 points for wins and 15 points for a draw and stuff? Because it doesn't feel right. You're absolutely bang on. Spurs had the worst season ever. They're still in the Champions League places. Villa win every bloody week, and we're still in 11th. I mean, I know it's but I think it's a sign actually that you can be a team like Villa and it's so closely concertinated now, and it's great actually to see the women's team exactly the same. There's a massive gap between them and the team below. Clearly, it's like they're almost in a 3-league system, aren't they? There's the top 4, them, and then the rest of the teams. We've obviously got 11 teams in the Premier League, and then it's like Premier League 2, isn't it? It's like a reserve league. But we're winning and getting draws, and then winning again to keep ourselves in amongst it. To have us not that far from Spurs, and yet they've had a terrible season. Everyone hates the manager. All the fans are on Talk Sport, slagging off Daniel Levy. And you're like, hang on a minute. I'll tell you what I don't get about Spurs. No, it's not a Spurs podcast. But, what? You've got a divine right to be ahead of Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, a resurgent Newcastle. I've missed one out.
Man
United. You've got a divine right to be ahead of all of them. I mean, I don't get it.
We're all like this though, Kevin. We're the same. We think we should be better than Brighton and Brentford and all
we
them.
do the same thing, don't we?
And they still get above us and we get down.
If we were getting the Champions League finals, maybe we might not have a different view, but I don't know. It just feels like not that you should be happy with it. I think it's obviously more the style of football sometimes, but yeah, I think you've got to be careful what you wish for. But I want to look at our club. Admittedly, the last few years, we've had our relegation, we've had our struggles, but I still remember not that long ago when we were vying for fourth with Man City and Spurs. I remember there was an end of that season when it was like, who's gonna get it? And with everything we've got as a club now, I just think it should be huge motivation, not only just to hear how people talk about us on like those podcasts, whatever, that you were on, but also how they just don't talk about us in the press. We spoke about this on a pod maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago when there was that game when we could have gone ahead of Chelsea if results had gone one way. And it was all about how Chelsea are X points off Champions League and all about how Villa are now Y points off relegation. But it's just... the narrative on us is so bad, and I like the fact we're sneaking under the radar. The last thing I want to start seeing is Football Focus doing an interview with Unai Emery about Villa's resurgence and Soccer Saturday doing a little review on... just let's keep it quiet and let's strike.
No one cares down here at all. All I get is like, if we start talking football, they go, "Oh, you'll be safe this year, won't you?" That's all I ever get, and I'm like, I want to have a conversation, but I'm like, I've got you boys back now. I'll just nod and smile. Yeah, we'll be safe.
Chelsea go 10th. I even think them will be 10th. It means nothing. You start to knock on the door, but it's such a big opportunity for this team now.
100%. And for once, I finally got to see on the Premier League the bottom 9, not bottom 10. Like, remember when Liverpool were 11 and it was the bottom 9? And for ages, it was just bottom 10, and they finally changed to bottom 9. I was like, thank God, because we're nowhere near that relegation battle.
Lads, can we just reminisce for a second? Not Grealish, not David Platt, not in 57, right? But remember that, was it 90 minutes, 100 minutes when we were 10th? After we beat Bournemouth and before Chelsea won. Remember that?
Glorious time.
No,
I was at the Aston train station, and I literally seen Rich Bartlett put up. It was a good 20 minutes after you giving it the big one.
But we got to wait. You got to wait for the screen to change to see how many points we are ahead of Forest or something. It was like, my God, well, we've made it finally.
Yeah, well, look, fingers crossed. We'll get your score predictions later, but fingers crossed we'll be there. We'll be there after Saturday. But yeah, we shall see. Rachel says she agrees with Ian. Think that Ramsey almost had to unlearn Gerrard's coaching to take on Emery's coaching. Yeah, and it's tough for young players sometimes. Rich says a big summer incoming. Can't wait to see who we get in. New winger and striker is a must. Check out our Talking Tactics live. We went through quite a few strikers there. I know, Rich, I think you've caught up with it. So yeah, we went through a lot of options that Gareth showed us. Jennifer says up the Villa, absolutely. Adamski thinks that's how Gerrard saw him in terms of, I think that might be in terms of Ramsey. It least as Cash doesn't feel like the kind of passing player that Marino does. He needs to really improve on that or he'll get replaced as the rest of the team improves their football around him. And Rod says, how nice is it to know we have a coach and staff who knows what they are doing. I look forward to games against expensive teams these days as I used to dread them. Yeah, I think we're quite positive about this, aren't we? Coming up, Rich said his younger brother is meant to be better. The future is bright in terms of Ramsey. Gary says, "Hi guys, good news is starting to flow down both the men's and women's teams at the minute. We must go at Spurs next season and stay above them permanently, 100%." We'll get on to Michael's question about the women's team in a bit. Absolutely, we'll cover them. Gary said, we all know what happens when we get mentioned in the press. Our players start getting linked with bigger clubs, and I hate that. Yeah, we've just said that, haven't we? With George, we've just said that about Ramsey. Ian says, my concern with Bailey is he seems not to have an idea as to what he's doing on the ball. It's like all the coaching he gets through the week goes out of his head, forgetting it's a team game. We're going to talk. We might talk about Bailey in a bit. When we do this, we do the team. So let's get onto the team. So. Kev, we'll do yours first, mate. Just talk us through.
So, it's the same back five, although obviously, Mr. Cash is out, so Young's in. So probably what you'd expect. I think Kamara, if I see someone smiling in training with his teammates, that's enough for me. He's back in the team. I think obviously Emery said he should be in the squad. So I think if he's available, then depends how fit he is, but I'd like to see him come back in. McGinn, Louise, I think makes up that midfield. And then, whether his formation would be, how he does his midfield, I could put these players in a number of random positions, but I think I'm keeping Ramsey, Wendy, either side of Watkins, Louise, Kamara, McGinn in the middle. So, yeah, it means no Bailey in that team, but I think with Kamara coming back in, I think it gives you a bit more solidity. And, mean, Bailey's been better at home, not so good away. So I don't think this maybe is a game for Leon.
Yeah. You guys in the comments get your starting 11s or who you would start in the side, but I can't really disagree too much with that. But yeah, we'll talk in a sec. So yeah, George, your team here, is that the same as?
Exactly the same, mate. Yeah.
Exactly the same. Yeah. So Bailey missing out, and I guess
Maybe
from our point, yeah,
maybe when Chelsea had stretched after 65, 70 minutes and we're still in the game, maybe you introduce him then for a Buendia who's probably worked his socks off, and then you try and run at them and hopefully break them down that way. But yeah, I wouldn't be starting Bailey in this game.
Yeah, it's one of them where you've got to maybe start off a little bit more conservative and give us a bit more presence in midfield, a bit more ball playing. Whereas, yeah, what we've seen, Bailey's away from home has been kind of out for a lot of the time, or not necessarily been.
I can't think of a good game he's had away from home all season.
No, I think you boys, George and Kev were at the West Ham game, and he did a couple of all okay things, but getting pushed off the ball, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I missed. I had to do a quick message there. So
you're all right. So let's get your team up, Martin. Let's see what you're saying. You've got Kamara in twice again.
Is that good? He's named him twice.
That might be the wrong team. That might be my fault. Yeah, cool. Well, talk me through who you had, and I'll get that team up for you, mate.
Yeah, I had Martinez in goals, Ashley Young at right back, Cons and Mings in the centre, Moreno at left back, midfield three of Louise, McGinn, Ramsey, and then the front three of Watkins, Emi Buendia, and Bailey. So I only started Bailey because it's pretty much his only option. And then Ashley Young, I think he's going to go with the safest option against Chelsea.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll bring Diego Carlos into centre back for that game to push Cons out right. Too big of a game in my opinion. So I think he'd go with the safest option and put it in Ashley Young. Yeah, that's the one there. And then I think he'll stick with that midfield three because I don't see him putting in Kamara straight away. Now, I could be wrong, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, okay. Well, slightly different there. You've kept Bailey in. Is that the team that started, other than Cash, is that the team that started against Bournemouth?
Against Bournemouth, yeah. I don't see him making too many changes. Like I said, I know Kamara's back, but I don't, like I said, unless he doesn't train normally tomorrow, then, he will be in the squad, but I don't think he'll start. He'll probably be on the bench. And then if he does make a change, it probably will be for Bailey, and he might push Ramsey or McGinn outright. So we'll have to wait and see.
I don't think we can argue with either. I think we'd be happy with everything. Rich said he likes your team, Kev, and obviously George's as well, because you got the same team.
What was Kev and George's team?
So their team, let me just bring up Kev's again. So Buendia and Ramsey just behind Watkins, Kamara in. So Bailey missing out, and then Young in for Cash.
I agree with that as well. Yeah, no, 100%.
I think it's a decent side either way. I think it was just being a little bit more conservative with the fact that we were away at Chelsea.
I just wonder whether he might go for Dean over Moreno as well for that same reason.
I don't think he will. I think Moreno had a very good game against Bournemouth when he was there.
Just better quality players though, Chelsea, haven't they? But I don't know.
But you have to test yourself against these better quality teams.
It's an interesting one because it depends who he's going to play out wide, because when against West Ham, Moreno was getting a bit caught, wasn't he, against Bowen?
This is what I was thinking,
and he might get caught in behind. So it's not a bad shout actually, George. But then is Digne any different? Like, has he got the pace to get? Moreno's got the pace to recover.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
I would say the only thing, Dean's quite good in the tackle, isn't he? But his concentration is not 100%. I think he's a better tackler though. That's the only reason I reckon he might go in.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with both you guys. I don't think he'll make too many changes, but I also could see Kamara coming back in. I don't think he'll bring Digne in for Moreno, but yeah, we'll see. Ian says, I think given what Emery has done with previous players coming back from injury, I don't think Kamara will start. He comes in from the bench for me. Gary said, if we win one, lose one from now to the end of the season, would that be enough to maybe finish 7th?
Probably would depend on the other results from other
Possibly.
teams.
Depends who we'd beat, I suppose, because we've got those teams around us. Michael thinks team selection is spot on. Rich said I'd have the same, bring on Duran and Bailey for the last 20 minutes. I think it's the same lineup as last time, except for Young for Cash. Bailey is apparently enjoying his time at Villa, so he may set off for the bench next season. We'll see. Rachel said, personally wouldn't start Kamara, bring him on for some minutes to integrate him slowly. Gaza's in the house. Good evening, Gaza. Great to have you on board, mate. Ian says, I think Bailey is a good squad option moving forward. His pace at least stretches teams. Yeah, I think now we've got options. You know, he can bring him on. I think he might put Carlos on towards the end to get him some competitive minutes. He did say that Carlos wasn't ready yet to start games, so I don't know whether he'd be ready to. Well, it depends on the scoreline, doesn't it? And he might bring him on. You know, if we're 1-0 up or 2-1 up, Martin, he might bring him on to say, right, let's get an extra centre back in there just to shut up shop.
Yeah, exactly, and that probably would be the best case scenario for Diego Carlos. Like, we know he started there in the game against Bristol Rovers, but admittedly that was a friendly just to get his minutes on board, his match fitness back up. But a competitive game, I think a game like Chelsea that Richard Edwards put there, I think that's just a bit too early, unless it's that scenario that you just said there, Davor or Golo, just a shut shot, throw him in, just get everything out of there. And, you know, and then now George here with his best mate, you know, even he wants to say on Diego Carlos and Kamara coming back.
I don't think Kev could bring his dog on to sit on his lap.
No. Can I just say, the way your dog sat there, it's like you've got a ventriloquist dummy, because like sort of sweep or something, like the way that it just literally sat on your lap like this, and you can go. Got a gear. Oh, dear. Bailey is shit. That wasn't me. That was a dog.
Yeah, Rod says he agrees. It would be nice to see Carlos get some minutes. Gaza can't see Bailey starting. Mark says not sure if Carlos will get on unless it's really late and we have a big lead. Adamski says Buendia gotten better, but still worries me strength-wise playing away from home. Yeah, I mean, George, your thoughts? Buendia, he's got that creativity. We need a bit of that creativity, but yeah, I do agree with that. He does get pushed off the ball, particularly, you know, until he gets into the game.
Yeah, 100%. We've been saying the same thing since the day he signed, and I'm a big fan of his. I love his work rate. I love the fact that even though he does get bullied, he still fucking sticks himself in there, doesn't he? He tries, but when someone's got his number, it's like having 10 men, isn't it? Because he can't get a look in. And I think it's actually Chelsea that done that to him last time, if I remember right. Was it last year when we got done 3-0 down there? Lukaku absolutely steamrolled us.
Yeah, it was start of the season.
He just didn't get a look in.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
100%. Loads of comments coming in. It's Pat Max says Bailey is dangerous playing for the left, 100% with Ramsey playing off his shoulder. Well, we'll see. We might see that. Gaza said only the keeper stopped us from battering them at Villa Park. We should do them this time round. Fingers crossed. And the dog agrees that Bailey should be on the bench next season, said Adamski. Michael says hit the like, everyone. So yeah, do what Michael says. Michael. Hit the like and help us spread the word of the channel. Hit that subscribe button as well. If
just hit the like for George's dog alone. That's enough.
Yeah, exactly. Kev, little thoughts on Chelsea. We won't really cover much of Chelsea at the moment. Obviously, Graham Potter's come in, up and down time. Signed. I don't know. It's a bit like fantasy football. And I know the owners got a lot to do with this DraftKings, this kind of fantasy football in America. And he just seems like he's playing fantasy football with Chelsea. Just keep signing players. I mean, what have you made of them this season?
Yeah, they've not been great, have they, Chelsea? Very, very disappointing. It seems like Todd Bealey is convinced about Potter, though, the project. And, you know, I think he'll get to the end of the season. And then with that squad of players and his managerial pedigree, I think they'll be a real force to be reckoned with next season. They've already started to turn the corner. You know, their form is obviously better lately. They've taken 7 points in the last 3 games, but obviously wildly inconsistent. But when you look at some of the players they've got, I mean, Fernandes is a right player. Felix is a great player. That Mudrik's not done much yet, but he's for both Arsenal and Chelsea willing to pay 80 million quid on him. But, you know, it's someone else's players that aren't even getting in their team, aren't getting much game time, like Ziyech and Pulisic and Players like
Ziyech,
that.
Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount.
Yeah,
Loads.
Tomori on
Mount's off,
loan.
don't they? He's going, they think.
Yeah,
What? Mount, yeah.
Mount's off to Liverpool, apparently.
yeah,
So,
I think
and
Bayern
yeah,
Munich want him because of Thomas Tuchel's there, you know.
yeah.
maybe.
And they're saying Loftus-Cheek is. I mean, he hasn't really had much of a looking, but he's going to be made available. You know, yeah. I mean, who would you say is their most dangerous, George? Who do we? You know, like Kev just rolled off loads of names there, but who do we really need to watch out for?
I'll tell you what, it's a good question, really. Like they've got, God, how many players they've got in their bloody squad? I feel a bit sorry for Potter, to be honest. It's almost like you've got too much going on, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
every game he's naming a squad, and he's got to leave probably 8 internationals out of the squad. You know,
Absolutely.
what sort of harmony can you get in a squad when you've got to manage it like that?
Yeah.
You know, if I'm looking at any one player, God, you know what, I'm struggling to think of a name, mate. They're a collective at the moment. Any one of them could punish you, but you know, I don't know.
Rich Edwards says Felix is the one for him. He's worried about. He looks a proper baller. I mean, Martin, they've got some great players, but goals is still the problem for them, isn't it?
Still no striker there, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know it feels like it's like FIFA. They just bought everyone that was made available or something. But at the same time, it's a young team, it's a new team, new manager. Everything is just new about Chelsea, so it's a completely transition year. And Todd Bowley obviously seems to be a bit patient with it. Other than Roman Abramovich, if it wasn't working, it was one of them. But I think if there was one player I would want to watch out for, and this lad just loves goal against Villa, it's Kai Havertz.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how bad he could be for a few weeks. He just pops up with a goal against us. He's just one of those players. So that's one I'd be looking out for. Because
are they still playing him as like a number 9? Is he still starting?
Yeah, like a false nine.
He's playing as like a false 9. Felix is playing off him, and then I mean Mudryk hasn't played that much.
Mudryk, I think, only played a game against Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah, he tends to change it around a lot. I don't know if Sterling's been injured.
Get him,
and they're still their best defender is Thiago Silva. I mean, great player nonetheless, but 38 years old, brilliant footballer. But it comes to something when you spent all that money on defenders. You've got Koulibaly, you've got Fofana, you've got all these other players, and 38-year-old Thiago Silva is still your best defender. They're still very dodgy at the back, and something that Watkins and whoever plays up top with him can exploit. So, I think it's there for us.
Absolutely. And if we win, and let's say Man City beat Liverpool, you're a point behind Liverpool, and you're really in the mix then, depending on results then from Brighton, Brentford, and Fulham. But this is a big, big weekend now. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. I don't think any of you guys want to do that either. But if we win, and then Man City go beat Liverpool, and depending on the results, all of a sudden, everyone, the Twitter, I know for a fact, Villa Twitter is just going to blow up. We're in the European race. We're in the top half. It's just going to be shouting all that. And I just think, like I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if we do win, lads, I don't think I'll ever be excited as I'll ever be in my life being a Villa fan, being in a bit of a push for European football. And how long has it been since I've said that?
Yeah. I know it's mad. I mean, there's lots of comments coming in with lots of people feeling very confident. We'll get score predictions in a minute. Let's just have a look at the stats. So just while I'm doing that, guys, I've just said there, and we're getting people asking you to do it as well. Just smash that like button, please. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and if you do want to donate to the channel as well, the option is there for you. Hit that $sign and donate to the channel. You can put a super chat in there, or you can just simply donate. Helps us put shows together like Talking Tactics Live. All goes back into the channel. So anything like that is just amazing. But we appreciate everyone's support anyway. So yeah, please do. First of all, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, help us on the road to 2K. Looking at the head-to-head, lads, played 55 times in the Premier League, 13 draws, 13 wins total for Villa, 8 at home, and only 5 wins away from home. Obviously, Chelsea have the upper hand over 16 home wins out of a total of 29. We just mentioned there before about them beating us earlier on this season, 2-0, where we did play well. We had a lot of chances, but that clinical edge wasn't there for us.
I don't think they've won away since then, have they?
I don't think they have.
If they haven't, it's literally, if they have, it's probably just one. But I know up to a few weeks ago, that was still their last away win.
Yeah, could well be. Obviously lost 3-1 on Boxing Day the season before, and 3-0. What you mentioned before, George, when Lukaku sort of dominated us. That the lockdown season, when the last game of that season, we actually beat them 2-1, and we drew with them 1-1 at Stamford Bridge as well. So we, took 4 points off them in that lockdown season. So not they've had the upper hand over the last 3, but it's not like 15, 20 years since we've beat them. I know away from home we haven't won for quite a while.
Well, Rich, I reckon I've been to Stamford Bridge about 8 times and I've seen 8 defeats.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, Cameron Archer scored that great header in the Carabao Cup where we lost on penalties. But yeah, obviously something we can take into the game is that we have beaten them and we have got a point off them fairly recently. Form guide Kev, you mentioned there, not too dissimilar. They've picked up a little bit lately. We've obviously won 3, drawn 1, lost 1 of the last 5 games. They've won 2, drawn 1, and lost 2 of the last 5 games. But certainly a game we shouldn't be necessarily fearing. And we were talking about this before, Kev, about having to beat these teams and putting results against these teams to have any opportunity to push up the table.
Yeah, it's absolutely, as Martin says, it's super exciting, but it's pivotal. We can have a talk about are we ready this season, and is it better to sort of kick on next season? Let's make it clear, if we get European football somehow this season, we will attract a better class of player. That's just a fact. We will. Someone will have the opportunity to play in Europe. And 100%. These are the games. Emery almost, this for him, it's like his first kind of cup final for us. And he's great at cup finals. You beat Chelsea in a one-off game, a game you're not fancying in winning, which he's done through his career with the likes of Sevilla and obviously Villarreal, etc. You win a game you're not fancying in winning, then all of a sudden you are, as Martin says, right amongst it. And if we can't get up to this game, if we can't get a performance of this game, then something's wrong. It's been just over 11 years since we beat them away in that unbelievable 3-1 win. And I mean, our team that day, we had Stephen Ireland, we had Nzogbia, we had Kieran Clark, I think we had Barry Bannon come off the bench. Like that team.
Don't forget Petrov, Stilian Petrov.
Yeah, I mean, but he was one of the better ones, Mark. Like I'm talking about some of the players, that were kicking around that wouldn't be playing Premier League much in their careers. So on the date can happen, and that team was a team that had backs against the wall, a lot of the time. This team is a team that's on the up. We've got a chance to be on. Well, this would be 13 points at the last 15 if we can beat Chelsea really properly on a march. And why not? Why can't we? It's a game of football. It's I don't know, 107 minutes these days, whatever it is. 90 minutes. And they've not been great. Can we go there? Can we capitalise? We've been good away from home. Can we soak up a bit of pressure and then do bits ourselves?
100%. And just a quick look at the season so far. So yeah, we know where we are in the league. Chelsea 10th. We've actually won more games than them. Won 11 games. They've won 10. We've drawn 5. They've drawn 8. They've lost 9 games. We've lost 11. Our goal score per match is higher than Chelsea's. So they're only averaging 1 goal per game. We're obviously like 1.3 goals per game. Only average conceded 1.04 for Chelsea, 1.44 for us. And then, clean sheets, they've got 9, we've got 8. And they do create slightly more chances than us per game. But, it's very, very, very comparable in terms of the statistics and how we are against them. So it's all to play for. Loads of comments coming in, so let me just go through them before we get on. Who's there? Gaza says he fancies us to keep a clean sheet. Ian, that's a good question. Do you think this is to anyone, so whoever wants to answer it, jump in. Do you think Carney will come on later in the game?
Fuck no.
He's probably forgotten he's even there.
Who's he? Does he play for Chelsea? Or is he on loan like the rest of them?
He might be more up for it. That's the only thing.
Here, I'm going to pull a Conor McGregor. Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah.
Move on.
You do realise, like, we're not allowed to swear on YouTube because we will get demonetized, but it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No one told us, Martin.
It's
David
all
wasn't
good.
told.
It's all good. It's all good. Greg said we could be a point ahead of Liverpool and 3 above Chelsea, and some media will still be saying, "Will they escape relegation?" Yeah, it feels like that. Absolutely. What we got here? Gary said we need to hit the ground running in April as we have a few midweek games as well. Yeah, we've got Leicester to come after this. Rich says, what do you think about the Lukaku links? Worth going for? Worry about wages and motivation?
I wouldn't go near him.
Not a chance. He comes to Villa, and when you've been around a circuit like he has, why is he coming to somewhere like Villa? He's not going to be asked, mate. He's not asked. Yeah. He's not asked at the big club, so he's not going to be coming to us.
It's just a big payday for him, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Gary said this Villa is not comparable with the Muppets we've had in the past. Imagine next season with upgrades and a winning mentality.
Do you know what? Yeah, on that, can I jump in quick there?
Yeah, of course you can.
I've realised I've got to start having a word with myself, with like some of the predictions and stuff. But after that Bournemouth game the other week, I sort of sat there and I thought, I keep judging these players on the last 3-4 years and the disappointments and the inconsistencies and the frustrations. But I think this is different now, isn't it? Emery's got them going, mate. They all look like different players.
Yeah.
They look different quality. They've got different motivation. And we just look a better team and more dangerous. And I'm starting to get a bit more confident now.
Right. Well, let's get onto that in a second. Michael says next week his daughter's getting married on the 6th. Congratulations. So he'll miss us guys live, but Villa will be mentioned in his speech. So we'll be close to his heart. Well, look, I hope it all goes well, mate. That's amazing. So, yeah, I hope that day goes brilliantly for you. Right, okay. We've got score lines to talk about, or is it actually before we finish on score lines? Is there anything else that you wanted to mention? I know Martin, I think we had Douglas Luiz getting Player of the Month for March for Villa, and you wanted to. I know he's on the back of your shirt, and you had a little story about it.
So, what happened was, it was in this season, I was slating Douglas Luiz, and I mean slating him. A bit like you, George, you say, when a few years ago we were kind of judging the players. I mean, I could not judge Douglas Luiz with so much hatred like Kevin with Bailey in my life. And for Christmas Day, my brother bought me this jersey. Now, I didn't even look at the back of it at this stage. I went, oh, that's actually quite nice when you're looking at it in person. And then he says, turn it around. I was like, oh, hopefully I must be playing in the back. Douglas Luiz was on the back of this short, right? And I was going, oh, here, right? It was clearly a joke. And now he's turned into one of our better players, and I love him. So this joke is turned into a bit of a good one,
Yeah, you've got to keep the faith sometimes these players. I think we were all guilty of slagging Douglas Luiz off. And, sometimes it's justified. He wasn't fulfilling his potential. But, we've talked about how much players have improved under Emery's coaching. Kevin and Luiz has been one of those players.
I mean, I could argue that he might be my favourite player at the moment. I think he's been that good lately, and I've never been as scathing as others of him. Plenty scathing of other players at times, but the way he's you talk about Kamara as like a Rolls Royce. I mean, what is he, a Bentley then, Luiz? What is he? Because he's an absolute class act, and he's getting better and better lately. How he didn't get in the Brazil squad? They must have some serious midfielders at the moment.
Yeah. Gary says seems Alicia and Dougie have improved since they split. Word on the women's team, Kev. We obviously great win last week, 5-0 against Leicester, 5th in the table. I've mentioned them a couple of times on Bodymore Bulletins in the FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea. I think that's at Bescott Stadium, so people get your tickets. Yeah. But I know you mentioned them earlier. Fifth in the table. It looks a little bit much for them to try and get into like the 4th and 3rd spots, but you just have to keep winning. They've got Chelsea actually on Sunday evening, so that'll be a good test for them.
Well, they've not lost great games, but that WSL is crazy. Any one of those 4 teams ahead of them could conceivably win the league. When there was a guy I saw it, a female football writer who'd modelled it on that they could all finish on the same points basically, and similar goals and stuff. It's crazy. It's a crazy league for that Villa team to be 5th is an unbelievable achievement. And Rach Daly's won our Ladies Player of the Month as well. No surprise there. 16th of April, an FA Cup semi-final for the first time in their history as a ladies team. It's hugely on the up. We talked about the ladies being good, obviously the men being much better, but we also, let's not forget as well, there's the under 18 Premier League Cup final as well, which is at Villa Park.
That's against Spurs, isn't it?
Yeah, Villa and Spurs, 34th of May, 7 o'clock. So, throughout the club now, positivity. There's a new inner city academy being built. There's obviously the train station and whole Villa Park upgrade happening. The future king at some point will be a Villa fan. It's all going off.
Yeah, and I think we're signing another young lad from Scotland as well. I've seen.
From Celtic, isn't it?
Yeah, his name escapes me.
Borland, isn't it?
Borland. Yeah, so
Aiden Borland.
We've obviously got some highly rated players coming from Scotland. Rich says 50 in the chat. Hit that like, guys. Yeah, please do. So I'll come to you first, Kev. Your prediction for score on Saturday evening.
2-1 Villa.
And who's scoring?
Ollie Watkins is going to get his goal. And finally, John McGinn's going to get one.
Love it.
He's going to rasp one in from the edge of the area, the winner.
Love it. We've got loads of scorelines coming in. Duncan says 2-0 Villa. Villa 1982 says 1-0 Villa, Watkins. Michael says, I've not been drinking, but I can see 3 goals and a clean sheet to Villa, 3-0. Rich Edwards says Watkins and Ramsey 1 each and Felix 1, so a 2-1 Villa win. Jack says 3-1 Villa. Rachel says 1-1. Martin, what are you saying?
2-0. Watkins
2-0.
double.
To Villa.
Oh, Watkins getting a double this time. Great.
And just before you go on to George, are you in the doghouse tonight or something? Because you're not in your normal man cave.
I was going to say we can see light. We can see light as well, George. You're not sitting in the dark.
He's got the protein shake up here. He's got the milk there there beside him.
That's a bit sad. My mum's mate hasn't been opened.
He just picked the dog up and he put on his lap. He must be in the doghouse.
that protein shake's been put there before the show, isn't it? Just in the corner so people can see it. George goes to the gym. That's what it is. You want to make him believe it.
Yeah,
you know that.
Working out.
He's in the gym and there he is sipping. What, beer in his hand?
Yeah, I know. That's more like it. It's more beer and less protein, lads.
Can you mix protein with beer? Does it work like that? Can you shake it up?
I'll let you know.
Yeah, give us protein beer.
Gaza says 2-0 Villa. Very positive look. Adamski's he's gone off to work. It says 2-1 Villa. Bailey Francis says 1-1, but hopefully a Villa win. Man with the golden gun says going for 2-0 Villa. We've been getting rid of the hoodoo from past years. Pat Max says Mystic Max sees 4-1 Aston Villa. Just watch. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Really random review said I love a clean sheet for Emmy, but would take a 4-1 Villa. George, what are you saying, mate?
4-0 Chelsea.
After all that positivity.
I'm joking. I don't mean that, lad.
Lay off that beer, whatever it is you're drinking.
I don't mean that, boys. No, do you know what? You were talking about, Kev, weren't you? The last time we won there, it was a 3-1, and I reckon we're gonna rewind the clock back to 2012, and it's another 3-1 win for the Villa boys.
Brilliant.
Oh, nice.
Fancy Watkins, Buendia, and Louise.
Come on, Villa.
Go on, the boys.
I think I'm going to say 1-1 draw, lads. I think Watkins will get a goal. I'm going to say 1-1 draw.
You're the host. Come on. Be a bit more lively.
Jam Jack says 2-2. Still can't get carried away.
Being pragmatic,
where are we?
Being pragmatic.
Right, couple of general questions. Calvin Phillips has been linked. I've not seen that, but again, would you take Calvin Phillips?
Injury record concerns me.
Had you told me 2019? Yeah,
I think we've got our Calvin Phillips now in Kamara, haven't we?
Yeah,
and we got him for free, so I think you steer clear of this one. I mean, how much are they paying him at City? He's got to be on about 170 a week, I reckon. There.
It's the age-old curse, isn't it? Unless he improves for next season and gets his games, it's the age-old curse of players going to Man City, isn't it?
Yeah, he's another Jack Rodwell, isn't it?
Jack Rodwell. It's happened so many times with these players. And look, sometimes you can't fault them for having that ambition, but it's like, see the longer-term picture. You know, you were an absolute legend at Leeds, and you know, it's just such a shame because it's like a career. Obviously, he's been injured, but he wouldn't have played that many games anyway, would he? So
Nah, he's
I don't
only
know.
played 5 games this season.
Yeah,
He's
Yeah.
nowhere
Played,
near
like-
as good as Rodri anyway, so he's not going to get ahead of him.
yeah.
He hasn't even played like 50 minutes this season, apparently,
Mm.
in them games. He's only like had cameo roles.
Yeah.
Still in the England squad, though, of course, obviously.
Of course, yeah. He's got because such a lack of quality that he has
Southgate
to
really
get
likes him, doesn't he, Phillips?
Yeah.
Mm.
But again, lads, I'm Irish, so Southgate can pick all these out-of-home players all he wants.
Rich says, are all these younger players we're buying, are they for selling or integrating into the first team? We seem to be buying a lot of 16-year-olds.
Oof. I can see some of them going this summer, and if I'm being honest, you can call me stupid if you want, but I can really see Cameron Archer being sold this summer.
Look, if an offer comes in, he's a proven scorer now. He's got 6 or 7 goals for Middlesbrough. He obviously scored a fair few goals for Preston. He's obviously a proven goal scorer in the Championship. Would a team that gets relegated from the Premier League take him for 15 million to score, or 15, 20 million to score 20 odd goals in the Championship? Because he would. Averages say he'd get over 20 goals in a full Championship season. That would potentially get a team promoted. Would we take 20 million for Cameron Archer? That's what you got to ask yourself.
I think you could be looking at Cameron Archer, Philogene Bidace, Keenan Davis. I think you could be looking at 40 million quid there. You know, easily in today's market. You know, and regards to the question, you buy these players because it's in your hands. Then, if they progress massively and they do break into the first team, which is very hard to do. Great, you've got a player for cheap. If not, sell them on for a decent bit of cash. That's what the best clubs do, isn't it? You know, you have a conveyor belt. You make money. You bring revenue into the club. So I'm happy either way. I think there's a lot of talk. Should Kessler Hayden be getting minutes? Is Eric Bonham going to get in the squad next season? My view right now is whatever Unai touches turns to gold. So if he thinks they're good enough, he'll put them in the squad. If he doesn't, he won't, and that's enough for me.
I think it'd be sad to see Archer go though without getting a crack and without scoring a few goals for us. You know what I mean? Because he's going to have a good career. I'm convinced about that.
Yeah, but is he top 6, top 8? Ambition of our team, Premier League quality. I really love Cameron Archer. I think he's a goal scorer. He's a bagsman. But is he going to get past that niche striker? We're almost certainly going to buy, and Watkins and Duran.
Yeah. And it's a shame, isn't it? But yeah, I agree. And obviously, Tammy Abraham is getting more and more links. Where those links are coming from, I don't know. Like, is it his agent? Is it Roma? Is it us kind of trying to test the water? I don't know, but
I think it's just lazy links because he's played with us before and we're kind of on the up. It's like Abraham on a return for Villa, because they're challenging for Europe. Or if we get Europe, I swear, if we actually get Europe, we will probably not see the end of this Abraham link during the summer.
No.
Villa's in Europe. They want Abraham because he's played in Europe to play all this.
Yeah.
I know it's just going to happen.
The ironic thing is though, if we do get Europe, no, it's all right, George. You can jump in a sec, mate. The ironic thing is, if we get Europe, the likes of Archer, Eric Bonham probably have more chance of staying because we have to then play, have a squad for Europa Conference League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. So if we don't get into those tournaments, then the chances are they might go because they're not going to get first team minutes. But if we do get into Europe, then the chances are they've got more chance of staying. Sorry, George, what were you going to say, mate?
You know what? I can't remember now.
Hey, it's that protein shake.
I know. I was desperate to get in there and I forgot it.
Make yourself a cup of tea, George.
Gary says he wonders if there's a chance of Archer Davis frontline in the Championship next season playing together. And then sell Archer with a buyback clause, says Rachel. That wouldn't be a bad shout. Wouldn't be a bad shout at all. Boys, great pod. Great having fans, viewers, fans jumping in the comments. It's always amazing. You guys make the show. We've had over 50 watching tonight at one point, so great numbers watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well if you are new to the channel, and to help us on the road to 2K. We will be back with a match reaction show probably Sunday, being as though the game's 5:30 on Saturday. So we'll be back for a match reaction show on Sunday, and then plenty of content, hopefully with a talking tactics with Gareth after a win. Our record is great at the moment with that. I think we've only covered 1 defeat so far. So, yeah, fingers crossed we're back with a win. Yeah, all that's left to say is thank you for watching. Thank you, lads, for joining. Thank you guys for commenting.